Hi, today I'm going to teach you two basic chords on the guitar, A minor and E. I like to teach these as the first chords because they use the same basic shape. That is, the finger arrangement, this is the A minor, looks the same as the E. We simply move it from one string set to the other. So the nice thing about it is that once you learn one, you can easily adapt it to the other and start to change back and forth. So you'll be able to play A minor and E and move back and forth. I don't want to say with ease, but maybe a little bit easier than you might on some other sets of chords. So let me take you through the basic forms that you're going to need. First, you might want to look at them in diagram form. Here we can see how the chord diagram matches up with the guitar and the strings. You'll notice all the way on the left here, that's where we have the low E, the sixth string, the thickest one. And then moving toward the right, the high E, all the way on this end, the thinnest one. And we can see here, this is the nut, that heavy dark line that corresponds to this part of the guitar. And then the horizontal lines represent the frets, such as that. So that's our orientation for a chord. So even though we see it much like that, it corresponds to that area of the guitar with the headstock up above, right down to the sound hole. So this is our orientation. Let's take a closer look at an A minor chord. A minor. The lowercase m represents minor. And this chord diagram contains all the basic information that you'll see in almost any chord diagram. The nut, which is shown as this heavy line. The strings, which are shown as vertical lines. This is the low E, the A, the D, the G, the B, and the high E. Thickest string, thinnest string. We see an X here. That means you simply don't play that string. You avoid it. The circle like this behind the nut represents an open string. So we strike that string, but it's left open. There's no finger applied to it. Then we have, sometimes these appear as black circles, but here I put open circles with numbers in them to represent the fingers. So first finger, which is the index, 2, which is the middle finger, and then 3, which is the ring finger. And then we have finally another open string. So this is a 5-string chord using open A, 2nd fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret with those corresponding fingers. So that's your A minor chord. E is the same configuration of fingers. If you look back to the A minor, uses the same exact fingers, but if you look carefully, they're shifted over to a different set of strings. In this case, we have a 6-note chord, a 6-string chord. Open E, and then notes on the middle strings as well as the upper ones. So open E, 2nd fret of the A and D strings, 1st fret of the G, and then open B and open E. So the nice thing about these two chords is that you can maintain that same shape of index, middle, and 3rd finger and shift back and forth between the two with relative ease. And here they are on the guitar. The first finger, the index finger, goes on the B string, 1st fret, close to the fret. You can see I'm coming up very close. You also might want to notice that my thumb is in the back of the guitar. Thumb is right in back of the neck. So you can't really see it coming over the top, maybe just a little bit. That's a good way to start. Later on you might come up but for now, try it like this. First finger right behind the 1st fret. Middle finger goes right behind the 2nd fret of the D string. But back just a little bit. The reason being, our 3rd finger is going to go on the 2nd fret of the G string. So we have 1st finger, on the first fret of the B string, middle finger, second fret of the D string, and the third finger on the second fret of the G string. Now we're going to play 5 notes, or 5 strings. We don't play the low E. The low E gets left out of this chord most times. So we're going to play starting with the open A string, and then on through the rest. So that's A minor. And you'll want to pick that like this, so that you can hear each note. And make sure the sound quality is good. We want to make sure each note rings out clearly. So listen to them one at a time. That way you can see if one sounds funny, which would mean something's happening. Maybe not enough pressure, or a finger leaning against another string. Let's take a look at some other angles of this chord. So here's another view of the A minor chord behind the first fret of the B string. Middle finger behind the second fret of the D string. And then the third finger squeezes in just behind the fret. Look how close. The second fret of the G string. The pinky just kind of hangs out. My thumb is back behind the guitar. Okay. You can see there's a little bit of room back there as well in the palm. So that gives a little bit of a view of how that all works. First finger, middle finger, and then ring finger. Notice also that the fingers are perpendicular to the fingerboard. You don't want to lay down. If they start to lay down, they're going to mute out other notes and you won't get the sound of the chord. You'll get a bunch of muted percussive sounds. We want to have everything upright. So the tips of the fingers are perpendicular to the fingerboard. So once you have the A minor chord, it's not hard to shift over to the E chord. Now look at my hand shape. I'm going to lift up, keep it together, and shift over to another set of strings. So I went from A minor, which has the fingers on the D, G, and B strings, and now I'm moving that same configuration over to the A, D, and G strings. It's really that simple. You might find that your fingers start to flail out and wander around as they realign, but in time your brain is going to get tired of telling the fingers to wiggle, and it's simply going to go there. It might take dozens and dozens of changes and maybe a week or two, but with diligent work you'll get it, and it'll look something like that. So the E chord itself, first finger goes just behind the first fret of the G string, middle finger or second finger just behind the second fret of the A string, third finger just behind the second fret of the D string. The middle finger, of course, is further back to allow for room for the third finger. First finger, middle finger, third finger. This is a 6-note chord. All strings get played.